to the weekly shred. It is Thursday night, man. I am your host, Jim Schultz. I am your tour guide. I'll be with you all here for the next, 20, 25, 30 minutes, and I am super pumped about tonight. We are going to talk about how to adjust your training when you get all old and crusty and stale, and you can't do what you used to be able to do. Like, how do you make the changes that need to be made? We're going to talk about that for the next little bit here. But before we do, four super quick announcements. Number one, if you're brand new to the shred, man, hey, toss me a new down in the chat box. I would really love to meet you. I would love to connect with you, and I would love to just say hello. Number two, if you have been a regular viewer of the shred, if you want to toss me with a thumbs up, that would really, really help the video. It would help the algorithm. It would help me out here at F Cubed. Number three, guys, I am so pumped. So if you guys follow me and connect with me on Instagram, you saw me post this on my story earlier this morning. I'm just at JSchultzF3 over there too. The garage gym, it's happening, man. The garage gym, like, it's up and running. The squat rack has been assembled. It's been bolted into the ground. I've got the Texas power bar set up. I've got the bench set up. I've got the chains. I've got the bands. I've got the weights. I've got it all, man. And so we did a little banded bench press work this morning, and I wanted to get some of it on film. I wanted to get some of the sets on film, but I couldn't, man, because it was dark in that garage. I was like, we're not going to be able to see anything. Like, it's going to be super grainy. So I was like, all right, man, like, we're going to have to figure out the lighting situation first, and then we'll come back around and maybe get some things going in there. But it's up, it's running. We've got a couple more bolts to put in the rack just to really solidify it down to the ground fully, but it feels pretty firm where it is now. So I'm super pumped. So stay tuned. We're going to have some really cool and fun and interesting training content coming your guys' way here in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. But then number four, so what we've got tonight. Hey, Jones, what's going on, man? So I see my man, R. Jones. He popped on in. What's going on, brother? Good to see you tonight. I hope things are going really well over in your neck of the woods. So the last announcement that I want to make is got a brand new training coming up next week, next Wednesday. So the day after the election, when we still don't know who won, we've got a free training coming up next week. I've never done this training before. Never, ever. I'm still creating it as we speak. But I was like, this is something that we need. This is something that the people need. This is something that the people need. There's really not much more to say about it. So here it is right here. So this is the training that's coming up. So 3 ways to speed up a slow metabolism. So maybe that's you. So Tasty Trader, that is not you. You are the only person that has the fast metabolism, and this is not going to apply to you. You're probably not the only person with a fast metabolism, but nevertheless, 3 ways to speed up a slow metabolism. So the link the link to register for this guy is right down in the description. You can just reserve your seat right there. You can scroll down a little bit. You can reserve your seat right there. You can check out some poop emojis along the way, and then yeah, man, you guys can sign up for that right now. You can share it with a friend. They can sign up for it right now. It's totally free. It'll probably go maybe 45 minutes to an hour, maybe 75 minutes with the Q&A and stuff like that. And this is going to be really, really good, man. It's going to be really, really good. Because when I think about kind of the journey that I've taken, right? Like, obviously, a lot of the content that I'm going to create is going to be tailored around someone that might be like me, because that's where I feel like I can bring the most value. I mean, I've been shackled with a slow metabolism my entire life. But I am very proud to say that at 39, my metabolism is better than it was at 29. And it's better than it was at 19. Like, I would say that right now, my metabolism is running the fastest that it's ever run before, especially since I'm not dieted down right now. I'm not super lean right now. I'm really well-fed, probably too well-fed. And so as a result of that, though, my metabolic capacity is really, really high. And so that's a big, big benefit. But we'll talk about all that in that training. Check it out. I think it's going to be worthwhile. I can't say for certain that's going to be worthwhile yet because I haven't created it yet. But I think it's going to be worthwhile. I think it's going to be decent. So, all right. So that is the shameless plugs for what we're doing tonight. Tasty Trader, what is going on? I see you over there. Good to see you, my dear. Thanks for joining us here this evening. So here's what I want to know. As we get started tonight, how to adjust your training as you get older. Here is what I want to know. Whether you're watching live or on the replay. Obviously, if you're watching live, it's going to be a little bit more applicable, so we can dialogue about it. I want an age. I want an age in the chat box. If you are willing and ready and able and okay with the internet knowing your age based on your screen name. I'm curious. I'm curious what the demographic of the people and the folks that are watching this video might be. So I'm 39, right? Generally speaking, with my fitness, my training, my bodybuilding content, I tend to attract kind of a broad swath of people, some younger guys, some younger gals, and then, people around my age, and also some older folks. And so I'm just curious to know where you guys are at. So let me know in the chat box. I'm be really curious to see if anybody lets me know. Tasty Trader is 50. I knew that, Tasty Trader. You didn't even have to tell me that. I knew that. Yeah, I think that's the right emoji for that right there. I'm not there yet. I'm going to hit 40 next year, so I'll let you know what kind of an emoji mood I'm in when I hit it. But that seems like it might be pretty applicable. So Jimmy James, he's 62. I knew that too. So Jimmy James, our most recent athlete in Full Throttle. So he's just crushing it in Full Throttle. And I did see your email, Jimmy James. And so Jimmy James. And so, James, I saw your email. We will talk about that here tonight. But that's inside of the course, man, so I'm a little bit disappointed that you actually don't know the answer to that question. But we'll talk about that here in a second. So, all right, so good stuff. Whoa, R. Jones beat us all at 66. Whoa, man. Yes, you did, my friend. Yes, you did. That's like a Joe Biden-esque age right there, man. Yeah, that's something. That's okay. All right. So, no, it's awesome, man. It's really, really awesome. Really, 66 is the new 46, right? 66 is the new 50, right? And I don't know that personally because I'm not 66, but, in today's world, in today's age, it's like, man, we are all going to live so much longer. And, for those of you that are tuning into this program tonight, I can reasonably expect that you're on the healthier end of the spectrum, or at least wanting to be. So for that reason alone, right, 66, nah, man, that's awesome. That's really, really, really cool. And so, all right, so how do we adjust our training as we get older? So let me kind of intro and cue this up with a couple of thoughts. The first thing is this. Never forget that we only have so much mileage on our joints. Never forget that there is only so much wear and tear that our joints and our tendons and our bodies and our skeletons can take before they just say, I'm done. D-U-N, done. Right? And so we got to be aware of this. So as we're getting a little bit older, I'm feeling this at 39. So I know you guys are feeling this at 50 and 62 and 66. Right? And so, you guys let me know if I'm on the right track. I think I am. But you guys got a little bit more, maturation on me when it comes to this. But your body can only take so much. You can only take so much wear and tear over time. Now, that doesn't mean that we just cash in our chips and call it a day. It doesn't mean that we just, cozy up on the couch and just call it a career. It doesn't mean that at all. But here's what it does mean. Have you guys ever heard the saying, don't work hard, you got to work smart, right? Okay. Well, within the fitness and bodybuilding and training world, that little axiom has been kind of tweaked a little bit in that you don't want to train hard, you want to train smart, right? I actually hate that saying. I actually don't like that saying at all. Here's a better saying. Let's train smart so we can train hard. Let's not train smart in place of training hard. Let's train smart so we can train hard. And that's kind of what motivated me to do this. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week in the Q&A session that we had, and it really motivated me. I'm like, man, we need a whole shred about this. We need probably a whole free training about this. So maybe you guys will see this coming up in the future too. But we need to be really smart and strategic with our training so that we can really get after it, so that we can really blast things, right? So that we can really train hard and make progress. Because we're beyond, the beginner stage. We're beyond just the total newbie stage, right? Like, we're in a season where it's like, all right, I really want to make some radical changes to my physique. And it doesn't matter if you're 50 or 62 or 66 or 76 for that matter. You can always build muscle and you can always lose fat. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to get to Shredsville and stay in Shredsville. So we want to train smart so that we can train hard. And you know, this whole idea, I've mentioned this a little bit in some earlier content, and I've actually mentioned this on Tasty Trade a little bit too. I've been watching The Last Dance recently, like over the course of the last couple of months. I just watch it here and there while I can because we got 3 small kids. Like, I have like negative time. But when I have a few odd seconds to myself and nobody else is around, I pop on The Last Dance. And this thing is amazing, right? I mean, it's Michael Jordan's, you know, well, it's the Bulls, you know, and their last title run, and it's all documented and all that kind of stuff. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I'm not done with it yet. I'm only on episode number 9, so don't spoil it for me. Although I have a feeling the Bulls win. The coolest thing about this Last Dance, though, has simply been watching Michael Jordan over time. And watching Michael Jordan's maturation, if you want to call it that. Michael Jordan, when he was in the early part of his career, like, it was over, man. It was over. Once he had the ball and once he took flight, it's over, right? He won, you lost. That's all there is to it, right? But then when you watch his career, kind of, you know, the trajectory of his career, obviously he went to baseball for a little bit, came back. When he came back, he was no less dominant. He was just as dominant as he was, but he had a different game, right? He didn't just take flight. He could, right? He didn't just dunk all over you. He could. But all of a sudden, you saw new parts to his game. All of a sudden, you saw new things that he had been working on, new things that he had been developing. He was stronger. He was physically, you know, stronger. He had a fall-away jump shot that just became patented, right? He started creating space for himself to find his shot. So it wasn't all about, you know, killer crossovers and then, you know, dunks in the lane. It was about finding new ways to win. And I was so motivated by that because, honestly, guys, being 39, like, you know, tonight's shred, like, I'm working through this myself, right? I'm having to come face to face with the idea that, all right, like, I can't do the things I could do 15 years ago. I can't do the things I could do 10 years ago. And I can't do some of the things I could do 5 years ago. And so, you know what? It's time for me to change my game. It's time for me to, you know, channel my inner MJ. And let's find my fall-away jump shot, right? At 5'7", and no skills on the basketball court whatsoever. Let's find it. I know it's there if I just look long enough, right? But when I take this idea and I move it into my space, the world of bodybuilding and training and, you know, physique development, I'm like, yeah, man, let's figure out how to tweak our game. And so that's what I want to talk with you guys about here tonight. And I know that was kind of a longer intro, but, you know, sometimes that's just how it is with me, man. And so, so Ed popped in. Hey, Ed, what's going on? Ed is also 50. All right, man. Well, 50 is the new 18, man, so you're good on that. So, Ed, thanks for popping in tonight. And then we've got, R. Jones says he doesn't feel old. That's excellent. James says, sorry about that. About the time between sets. Now, we'll talk about that, man. We'll talk about that, man. I was just fun with you, dude. And so, Tasty Trader says The Last Dance was incredible. The Last Dance was incredible. It's amazing. And so, I'm excited to finish it. So, all right. So, I'm going to give you guys 3 things that you can do to adjust your training as you get older. Some of them are not going to surprise you. Like this first one's not going to surprise you. I have it queued up on the screen. Y'all can't see it, but I can see it. I'm like, yeah, that's not surprising at all. But it doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it. It doesn't mean we're just going to skip over it, right, and pretend it's not there. Like, no, this is really, really important. But then there's going to be a couple of things that I have for you guys at the end that might be brand new. Now, if you've been following my content from day one and you never miss an Instagram story, then you've probably heard me say this before, but just in case you've missed a couple along the way, because there have been many, this might be helpful for you. So number 1, you need to be mindful of your injuries. We all have them at this point. We all have maybe many injuries at this point, several injuries at this point. So it's very, very important that you are mindful of your injuries. So here it is, guys. We don't have the invincibility of our 20s and our 30s anymore, right? It's gone, right? Remember when you were 25? Remember when you were 25? So let's all just take a second. Think back to where you were in your life when you were 25. I was starting my Ph.D. program. I had just moved down to Memphis, and I was starting my Ph.D. program, and I was completely overwhelmed by what I had in front of me and all of this and all of that. I had to learn how to write computer code, had no idea what I was doing, and it was very, very intimidating. But I remember that I had just moved down to Memphis, and it was total culture shock. I was like, man, I'm from Detroit. Like, it's 150 degrees outside. Nobody can breathe. I can't understand what anybody's saying. Like, what am I going to do? So that's where I was when I was 25. So I'd love to know where you were when you were 25. Let me know in the chat box. I would actually love to know. But the thing about being 25 is you're invincible, right? The thing about being 25 is your body is hurting, right? Your body is feeling some pain. It ain't no thing, man. It ain't no thing at all, right? Like, it just kind of goes away, right? Like, your body's feeling some pain, and then it's like, okay, yeah, fine. Tomorrow, you feel fine, right? 2 days from now, it's like it never happened, right? Like 3 days from now, 72 hours, it just kind of just drifts off into the sunset, right? That's 25. That's what 25 feels like. That's what 25 is. That's not what it is now, right? I mean, I can say that for sure at 39. I'm sure it's the case for, those of you that are 50 or 62, 66, or, other people watching that are maybe, in their 40s or whatever the case may be. Your body is telling you something. You need to listen, and you need to listen very carefully. So your body is giving you some signs, giving you some signals, right? Tapping you on the shoulder, saying, hey, something about what you're doing right here, it's not right. It's not jiving with me, right? Now, what we need to do, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but I'll bring it up again here now. You gotta be seasoned enough to differentiate between, injury type pain and laziness type pain, right? Like inactivity type pain. Like, you gotta push through that type of pain, at least to some degree. But injury type pain, like something's not right type pain, that is something you want to be very, very mindful of. Because let me tell you guys something. Let me let you guys in on a little secret that you would have never heard me say when I was 25 or 22 or 35. There is no one exercise that is so valuable that it has to be done. Not a single one. That includes squats, that includes deadlifts, that includes bench press, that includes overhead press, that includes every single exercise. Remember what our objective is. Our objective is physique development, right? Remember what our goal is. Our goal is to get leaner, stay leaner, build muscle, look better, feel better, right? This is our goal. Our goal is not sport specific. Our goal is not how much can you squat. Our goal is not how much can you pull. Our goal is not how much can you press. All of those things are important, and all of those things are fun, and they keep us engaged, and they give us motivation from one week to the next. But if you can't do one of them, it literally does not matter. It does not matter. Now, when I was 25, I'd be like, you're not squatting or deadlifting? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, do you not take this seriously? Like, do you even lift? Right? I mean, that's what I would be asking you, because that's how I really, really felt. And then, as part of my own youth and ignorance, I didn't really know any better at the time, and I didn't really want to figure out any better at the time, so I just went with that. But now I've learned, man, there is no one exercise that is so valuable that it has to be done. So if when you squat, right, like Tasty Trader, like I know like your knees give you a lot of issues when you squat. We've talked about this before, right? You probably shouldn't squat. And you know what? That's perfectly fine, because as you've shared with me, like you can leg press with no pain. But you know what's awesome about that? That gives you a nice environment for progressive overload, right? That gives you a nice environment to push yourself on that movement pattern, right? You start doing something where you're just creaking and cracking, and you're fighting through every rep, right? You're grinning through the pain on every rep. Like, that's just not going to work. At some point, you're going to break mentally or physically, and you're not going to be able to progressively overload like you should through that movement. So the first thing I want to say is, if your body's telling you something, you got to listen to it. You just got to listen to it, right? Your body's smart. Your body's going to tell you what hurts. Your body's going to tell you, like, all right, I wouldn't do that for a while, maybe ever again, right? Most things aren't really an ever again type thing, although some things are. And I'm sure as I get to, 44 and 49 and 54 and 59, there will be certain things that are kind of a never again. But, most things are going to be, all right, just put this on the shelf for now. And if you can never come back to it, you can never come back to it. It's really not that big of a deal. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to say. And so So R. Jones says at 25 years in Australia, finishing my second degree in electrical engineering. Dude, that's awesome, man. You were in Australia at 25. That's really, really cool, man. That's really something. Never made it down to Australia. I've always wanted to go. Autumn wants to go down there. But she wanted to go down there when we were dinks, when we were dual income, no kids. Now that we are, what would we be thrinks now? 3 kids with no income? So we'd be like ninks. 3 kids, no income. So we're not going to Australia anytime soon. But that's cool, man. That's really cool that you were able to make it down there. And so that's really good stuff. So the first one is to be mindful of your injuries. So let me know. I'd love to know what kind of injuries you guys are all working with in the chat box. Like what ails you? Like what really gives you issues and kind of gives you some problems? I would love to know that. My injuries right now are, well, my injuries over my career, really quickly. I'll share this with you guys. My neck was my biggest injury. Myofascial release fixed it. My shoulder was probably my second biggest injury. Myofascial release, stretching, fixed it. My hamstring is my third biggest injury. It's the one that I'm kind of rehabbing right now, and I'm almost all the way back. And you guessed it, myofascial release is fixing it. And so there you go. So let's see, Tasty Trader. I was in Vancouver, starting grad school, and still mourning Kurt Cobain. Oh my gosh! Wow, yeah, that's crazy. 25. So yeah, that was 1995. Yeah, wow, yeah, that's crazy, man. I remember that because I was 14. Yeah. Was I 14? Yeah, I was 14. And that's really good. That's some crazy stuff. So yeah, wow, crazy. But Vancouver, I heard Vancouver's a beautiful place. Absolutely beautiful place. I've never been there, but that's what I've heard. So, all right. So number 1, be mindful of your injuries. Number 2, here's the second thing that you can do. This also may not surprise you, but it also may surprise you. Your warm-up, your prehab, your rehab, these are all going to take on a brand new level of meaning. These are all about to become the most important things that you do in your training from this point forward. You need to treat these things as importantly as you treat your actual training, right? If you are really seriously focused on longevity, if you are really seriously focused on wanting to do this for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, these things need to be put front and center. Again, when you were 20, when you were 25, when you were completely bulletproof, you didn't really have to worry about these things as much because our bodies were so much more resilient. But now, they're just not. So we have to pay more attention to these things. We have to be more mindful of these things. Warming up, prehab, and rehab, these things are crucially important. And here's a little, I guess you could call it a tip, that I would strongly suggest for all of you. Myofascial release. So you heard me kind of allude to it just a couple of minutes ago, and I've shared it quite a bit on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on all these things, because it is the thing that has changed my entire warm-up, prehab, and rehab protocol. Like, yes, stretching and dynamic stretching especially, like, that's important. But I'll tell you what, myofascial release, it's going to do 2 things for you simultaneously that can't be done any other way. Well, it's going to break up your soft tissue, right? It's kind of like giving yourself a massage. Like, that's what you're doing with self-myofascial release, or with just myofascial release. I guess you could have someone else do it to you if you wanted to, but the way that I usually suggest it is with just doing it to yourself. You use a foam roller, you use a stick, you use a lacrosse ball, you use a tennis ball. Hey, you use one of these guys, boom. So we just got the Hypervolt. This thing just came today. So I decided to drop, that cost me about $300, and it is going to be the best $300 that I have spent in easily the last 3 or 4 days. And I am super excited about this Hypervolt because I think it's going to take our myofascial release up to a brand new level. But honestly, if you just have a $4 lacrosse ball, like, that will be plenty. Myofascial release, I would start doing it as part of your warm-up. I would start doing it as part of your prehabilitation work. So the areas where you feel kind of stiff, like your shoulders, or your neck, or your traps, right, or your back, or your legs, like all these areas, man, you start rolling over these areas consistently. You only have to spend a couple of minutes on a given area. It's really not that big of a time investment. What it's going to do, it's going to do two things simultaneously as it's breaking up that soft tissue. Number one, it's going to warm up your body in a way that I don't think can be matched by anything else. But then number two, it is going to heal by kind of breaking up that soft tissue, kind of ironing out the knots, ironing out the kinks. It's going to allow your areas of injury to heal in a way that can't be matched with anything else. And so if you start doing this consistently for, you'll probably start to notice a difference within 2 or 3 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks of rolling out every single day. And you don't have to roll out really hard, just your body will tell you, right? Like if you haven't ever done this before, man, just a light tennis ball or a foam roller is probably going to be plenty. But then as your soft tissue kind of gets toughened up, if you will, you're going to have to put some more pressure on there to achieve the same effect. And that's where something like a lacrosse ball or a Hypervolt might be a good option for you. And so let's see. So Jones says 66, I have no injuries. A sedentary life has its benefits. Very good. That's good stuff. And so let's see. Tasty Trader, never been good with warm up and cool down. We'll look into myofascial release. You should. And so, can you please do videos demonstrating how to do myofascial release on different body parts? Tasty Trader, I can, and I did, and you have access to it because you are an athlete inside of Full Throttle. Go to the dashboard inside of your course, like your course homepage. Go down to the bottom. You'll see the videos in the extra section. They show how to do myofascial release. So I have that available for all of the athletes inside of the course. For all the other commoners that might be watching, I would just go to YouTube, and honestly, they've got some great free videos. Just Google myofascial release, and you'll find some really good ones. It's not really that difficult to figure out. Like, you want someone to kind of show you, right, the first time or two, but after that, you'll kind of figure it out yourself. But check out your course dashboard inside of Thinkific there, Tasty Trader, and you'll see it there. So myofascial release, that would be, I think it's more important than stretching, way more important than stretching. And so stretching, that can be really useful too, because you want to stretch out those areas. But man, I would get into some myofascial release right away. So number 3, and this is probably going to be the newest one for you guys here tonight. So number 3, and of course, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat box, and I'll try to get to them before we sign off tonight. So number 3 is you need a couple of things. You need higher reps. You need BFR, which is blood flow restriction training, and you need some myo reps. All right, so what am I talking about here? Higher reps, BFR, and myo reps or myo sets. Okay, so the first one, higher reps. That's not really going to surprise too many people. It probably would make sense for you as you get older, as we change our game. Right now, we're finding our fall away jump shot. Right, it's not all about just taking off the free throw line. Like now, we've got to adapt new parts of our game. One of those parts is probably spending a little bit more time in the higher rep ranges. So instead of hammering away at the 6 to 12 rep range, which I think is probably the best for hypertrophy, maybe only by a small margin, I think moving up to maybe like the 8 to 15 rep range most of the time. Not all the time, right? We can still do some heavy triples, some heavy doubles as our bodies allow us to and as the certain movement patterns allow us to. I think we can certainly do that, right? But just as a general rule, maybe we slowly migrate up to 8 to 15 reps. Now, here's one thing that we all need to be mindful of, especially for, my beginners out there. But for those of us that are a little seasoned, that have a little bit of experience in the gym and on the rubber mats, right? We still need to be reminded. When I switch over into like a set of 12 or 14 or 15, right? I'm very prone to letting my intensity slip. I'm very prone to letting my intensity drop off. And that's just something that, it plagues me. It plagues a lot of other people. And what I mean by that is this. When the weight lightens up, it's very easy to kind of cruise through your sets. Now you might do a set of 15 and it might be hard, right? It might be taxing. But when the weight is lighter, you run the risk of not really getting that close to failure. And that means the set is not nearly as productive as we would like it to be, right? We want our reps to be effective. We've talked about effective reps before on the weekly shred. So if you actually scroll back on the weekly shred, and I'll drop this link in the description probably tomorrow. So for those of you that watch this on the replay and you get to this part in the shred, hey, thank you very much. But the link will be down below. You can check out the effective rep shred that we did. It was like 3 or 4 months ago now. But we want our reps to be effective. We want our time to be maximized while we're in the gym. Well, that's easy to do when you're doing sets of 4 or 5 or 6 with really heavy weight, because you know where failure is. Like, it's like, all right, I did a set of 5 and I only had 1 or 2 more guaranteed. I didn't do a set of 5 and I could have gotten 10, right? It's nothing like that. But you do a set of 15, sometimes it's kind of sneaky, right? Sometimes it's kind of like, did I have 2 more left or did I have 6 more left? I'm not really sure, right? That's kind of a big difference when it comes to effective reps. So just be aware of that as you are kind of switching over and migrating to these higher reps. But the BFR part, so the BFR part is blood flow restriction training. So here's where you buy yourself some tourniquets off of Amazon. You wrap up your arm, you wrap up your leg, and it's storming here in St. Petersburg, so we may go a little long tonight because I don't really want to walk outside and go back in the house. You wrap up your arms, you wrap up your legs, and it forces you to use a lot lighter weight with the exercise that you're doing. And, you do some cluster sets, and you're actually done with the movement after just a few minutes. So a lot of times, a standard blood flow restriction training protocol would look something like this, right? You wrap up your arms like at the top of your, like just below your shoulder joint, and I'm going to do a set of, curls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a weight that is really, really, really light, that I'm really not getting anywhere near failure. I'm probably, my first set I'm going to do 20 reps. And I would say, I could easily do 25 to 30 if I was going to failure. So I'm going to do a set of 20. This is usually around 40% of your 1 rep max, I think, if we're doing like a percentage thing. I'm going to do a set of 20. Then I'm going to rest 30 seconds, leaving the tourniquets on. This is very important. Then with the same weight, you do a set of 10, rest 30 seconds, set of 10, rest 30 seconds, set of 10, and then you're done. You're out the door. You take the tourniquets off. You let, the blood return to the areas it needs to return to. And it's an unbelievable feeling. Unbelievable feeling. There's 2 reasons why this is so effective. Number 1, because you have the tourniquets on, because you are restricting your blood flow, you're going to have to use much lighter weight. But there has been research that has shown that because of the occlusive nature of the training, you're actually able to achieve similar hypertrophic effects as if you used heavier weights, but you're able to save your joints by a ton, right? Remember, we only have so much mileage. So it's like, man, if I can take off some of that mileage and use much lighter weights, get a lot of blood flow coming into the area, which is going to be really good for, nourishment and injury healing and all that kind of stuff. It's like, man, sign me up. So I would strongly encourage you guys to look into some blood flow restriction training. I actually don't have any demo videos on blood flow restriction training, not on my YouTube channel, not inside of Full Throttle, not anywhere. And so that is something that we do need to do. Maybe I'll set some of that up for the garage. That would be pretty fun. But then the last one is myo sets. And of course, let me know if you guys have any questions. Drop them right there in the chat box as we're kind of rounding the turn here. Myo sets. Myo sets are very similar to blood flow restriction training in that the goal and the objective is to get a lot done in a short amount of time. But you're not going to use any tourniquets and there won't be any blood flow restriction here. But here's what a myo set is. It's also a cluster type of set. But, like let's say a great exercise to do myo reps or myo sets on is with like lateral raises. Usually these work best with isolation exercises because they're going to be extremely taxing on your system, right? Like cardiovascularly, they're going to take a lot out of you. So you don't really want to do this on something like squats or even bench press or deadlift because A, those moves are just way too technical. You should never do those moves when you're really, really gassed. It just doesn't make any sense. And then B, the cardiovascular drain, over and above the technical aspects of the lift, is going to be super demanding. So I don't know that I would mess around with myo sets or myo reps when it comes to that. But here's how a myo set works. So you do your first set. Let's say I'm doing a myo set, and my first set, the activation set, is like a set of 10. The goal, the objective, is to get to about an RPE of 8-ish, 8.5, somewhere around there on that first set. So that means, I had 2 reps left in the tank when the set was over. Then what I'm going to do is I'm only going to rest about, I would say maybe 10 to 12 to maybe 15 seconds if you're kind of a bigger dude and you just, need more oxygen in your system. 10 to 15 seconds, and then you crank out like another 4 or 5, going up to, again, about an RPE of 8.5 or maybe 9. Then you rest 10 or 15 seconds, and RPE 8.5 or 9, which again is probably going to be about 3, 4, or 5 reps. Rest another 10 seconds, 3, 4, or 5 reps, RPE of 8.5 or 9 again. So you're getting really close to failure each time, but you're just stopping short by a little bit. Here is what this allows you to do. It also saves a lot of mileage on your joints. Not in the same way that BFR training does, because you're still going to be using relatively heavy weights, like what you would normally use. If I just went in there and did 4 sets of 10 on lateral raises, like this is the weight that I would use for the myo sets on lateral raises, right? Like if I'm doing the 25-pound dumbbells for sets of 10 on lateral raises, I'm going to step in there with the 25-pound dumbbells, and I'm going to do my myo sets, my myo reps, with that same amount of weight. But here's what's cool, and this kind of gets back into the effective reps thing. It's been shown many, many times before, and for all of us that have been training for a long time, like we know this is true. You do a set of 10, what are the most valuable reps of that set? It's not the first 5, it's the last 5, right? It's not the first 5 or 6, it's those last 4 or 5. And so when you do a myo set, you do that first activation set where you just do the normal amount of reps, but then you only rest like 10 or 12 seconds and you jump right back in. And by only resting that short amount of time, what you're doing is it's like you're picking up the second set 6 reps in already. You're picking up the second set right at the point where the reps really start to matter. So you may only be doing 3 or 4 or 5 reps, but all of those reps matter. And that's really, really cool because A, it saves the mileage on your joints, and B, it also cuts down on your training time in a big, big way, and it allows you to achieve effectively the same effect as just cranking away at 4 sets of 10 or 5 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 8 or whatever you might be doing otherwise. I've tried myo reps with both lateral raises and with my triceps work, and I'm a huge fan. I really, really like them. They're not magic. Like, I don't think they're going to do things like that you would not find anywhere else, but I don't think they're any worse than just doing straight sets like you normally would. Which of course the big differentiating factor being the time saving. The time saving and the joint mileage savings is really, really significant. And so that's what myo sets are. So myo sets, as you get a little bit older, it's like, all right, man, I'm trying to save mileage on these joints, right? It's like, you might want to look into some myo sets. This could be a really, really powerful thing for you. So, let's see. Oh, yeah, so you have to tell us how to spell M-fax release. So it's really simple. It's just M-Y-O fascial release. That's it. That's myofascial release. So there you go. It's it's M-Y-O F-A-S-C-I-A-L. I mean, come on, man. The internet, come on, Tasty Fair. The internet will carry you on that one. Just start typing it in, and then Google, they know what you want to do. They know everything that you want to do. And so that's it, man. Those are 3 ways to adjust your training as you get older. And so my hope is that you guys got a little bit of something from this, and this was valuable for you guys. If you guys have any last-second questions here, man, drop them in the chat box. And don't forget, guys, check out the free training coming up next week, how to speed up a slow metabolism. This is going to be a lot of fun. I got some really fun and new and different things that I'm working on for this training. I think it's going to be really, really good. It's going to be next Wednesday, so the night after the election. So you're coming down off of that election high because your guy won, and you're like, man, what do I do? You go to this training, right? You check out this free training that is going to completely change the way you view your metabolic capacity and actually change your metabolic capacity at the same time. So it is a slam dunk no-brainer to check this thing out for, 45 or 60 minutes. So you guys can register down below in the description for this video. And let's see. So R. Jones, which Hypervolt did you buy? Oh, I didn't know there were multiple types. I got the Hypervolt. Like, I didn't know there was more than one type. So, well, I guess there are two types. There's one that has a Bluetooth. So this is the one that I got. So, there was one that had Bluetooth capability, but I didn't really feel like that was necessary for another $70 because it would have allowed me to pair up my phone with the Hypervolt, and then the Hypervolt would just kind of do everything for me. But because I've been doing this for a while and I am somewhat experienced, I'm like, nah, I think I could probably figure it out myself. And so I decided to save the $70 since things were already getting a little bit rowdy with the invoice there. And so yeah, I guess I just went with the standard Hypervolt. So Anthony James, great stuff as usual. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that, dude. I really, really appreciate that very, very much. That really means the world to me, man. Thank you so much. And so you guys are, I'm really humbled that you guys take the time to hang with me, man. I mean, you guys could be doing so many other things with your time. I'm just really, really, really humbled. And so, oh, James, dude, yes, I am the bomb. Well, thank you, man. But let me answer your question. So James had a great question he emailed me about that isn't directly related to this tonight, but it's still really, really important. He wanted to know, how long should I be resting between my sets? I believe that was right, James? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that that's the question that you had. How long should I be resting between my sets? And the answer is probably longer than you are. So I'm a huge fan of longer rest periods between sets. Most people move way too quickly in the gym. Most people are only resting 60 seconds, maybe less, between their sets. And the reality is, there is no way that you are putting forth the effort that you could be if you were resting longer and giving your body a chance to recover set by set. Because remember, our objective in the gym is not to burn fat. Our objective in the gym is not to burn calories. It's not to tone or define or anything like that, because it's all garbage. That all comes from nutrition, and that all comes from a caloric deficit. Our goal in the gym on the rubber mats is to build muscle or maintain muscle. If we're in a caloric deficit, sometimes the best we can do is maintain what we've got, and that's a huge victory in my book. So you want to be resting, I would say 3 to 5 minutes between sets for the major movements. Major like compound movements, right? Like squats, deadlifts, rows, presses, right? You got to give me at least 2.5 minutes, right? I understand some of us are extremely busy and it may not be practical for you. I totally understand that. But in a perfect world, I would love to see people resting 3 to 5 minutes between their sets of the major compound movements. Isolation movements, you got to give me 2 minutes. 90 seconds bare minimum, but 2 minutes would be a lot better. Isolation movements like press downs and kickbacks, lateral raises, stuff like that. And then, of course, again, if you're pressed for time, do some BFR work, right? Do some mile work. It'll really, really do a lot for trimming down your training time. And so yeah, if you guys got anything else in the last minute here, let me know. In the meantime, if you guys want to hit me up with a like on the video, that would be huge. If you are brand new and you want to subscribe, that would be doubly huge. And if you are new or old or young or old, if you want to share this with somebody, that would be amazing too. Just, hit that share link, copy it, text it to somebody, email it to somebody, say, hey, you got to check out this dude. He's got some good ideas. He's got some bad ideas, but it was a good time nonetheless. And so that would be really, really helpful. But I don't know, man. I think that's it. I think we're done with the weekly shred here on this Thursday. This is the final shred before the election, so it's crazy. I voted today. I was very, very excited about that. And so I put my name out there, and I didn't write myself in on the ballot, but I put my name out there as a voter that chose his guy. And so yeah. So okay, there you go. So James says I was moving way too fast. Most people do, man. Honestly, most people do. And so don't beat yourself up about it, man. But honestly, So, I mean, if you're moving really fast, if you're doing like 30 seconds between sets, which is not that uncommon, right? If you're doing like 30 or 45 seconds between sets, I'm telling you, man, tomorrow, do it tomorrow. Give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes between each set. It's going to change the way you train completely. You're going to be bored out of your skull. No, you're going to be able to perform really, really well. You might also be a little bit bored, but you got to get used to it, man. That's why the internet was invented. You've got your phone, you've got Twitter, you've got Facebook, you've got all that stuff. Just try to stay a little bit focused. Did I vote for the right guy? Of course I voted for the right guy, right? I can't possibly process how somebody could vote for the other guy, right? It doesn't make any sense to me how somebody could possibly vote for the other guy. I can't get there mentally. I can't get there emotionally. I can't get there practically. I can't even get there theoretically. And so yeah, of course I voted for the right guy. But I think that's it. I think we're done with the shred, man. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys are really, really terrific. We'll be back next week, of course. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I'm sure it'll be something at least reasonably worthwhile. In the meantime, check out that free training. Share it with a friend. Share the training with a friend. And you guys have a great Thursday night. We will see you guys.